Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I've been challenged, and I've really just challenged myself. I have a buddy who wanted a cedar chest, but we was having trouble finding a lot of cedar, unless it was these fence pickets I have back here. Um, but his dad had some sassafras, and sassafras does the same way as cedar. It don't rot. He's wanting to repel mice. He's got a lot of blankets, antique. Some his wife had bought. She's passed on now. I just about failed. Uh, and he's wanting to preserve them, which I would want to do the same thing. But we was having trouble finding cedar, so he wanted. His dad had the sassafras. He asked me if I could make it. Uh, the sassafras has been outside a lot longer than he thought, and it was warped, twisted, in every which way. I mean, you can see this not great looking lumber. I mean, that happens. But so what we're doing is I'm making a sassafras crate and I'm trimming it out in cedar, and I'm hoping it looks good. I've never messed with sassafras. This is my first time. But he presented this to me, and I'm challenging myself to make him the best crate possible for himself. I'm sorry, best chest possible for himself and the heirlooms that he's wanting to put in it. So I've already got the some boards made out in panels, which is, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're making panels for the fronts, or all the sides, top, bottom, and then that's where I'm at now. So they're all in panels, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to cut them. First of all, square. I've got to determine what size I'm doing. I made the panels, and they're a little different sizes, so I got to determine one size, and the wood will basically tell me that. So if there's any imperfections or mass imperfections, that's going to change it. But what we're doing, uh, we're going to determine that. We're going to cut them all square, and then we're going to start with the joinery. Probably just cut rabbets in the end of the wider boards, and just butt the smaller boards into it, glue it, clamp it, maybe shoot some pin nails in there, and then we're just gonna go from there. It's the first time I work with sassafras. This is so thin and warped that I was able to plane them down to 1/2 inch, which is, I would rather stop at 3/4, but I took them to 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna take those fence pickets, they're 9/16. I'm gonna take those down to either 1/4 or 3/8. I'll probably just take them all down to 1/4, because fence pickets, they have defects in them, and I'm hoping if I take them down to 1/4, them defects are planed out of them. I've never took fence pickets down that thin, so we're just gonna find out. Y'all stick around.
For making my panels, I went through and cut a rabbet on the longer panels, which would be the front and the back. Therefore, my side panels would just sit in that rabbet to have more glue on the surface, and I could use a pin nail and pin nail them together. When I started assembling, I used coarse glue to hold the panels together, but I had some angle clamps that I put on there just to help keep them somewhat tight as I got my pin nailer out and nailed them together. once I had all the panels together, just to keep them good and tight while the glue dried, I got these ratchet strap style clamps, and with these little rubber corner pieces that are supposed to help protect the corners instead of the actual strap just kind of folding them over a little bit. So I kept them in these ratchet style clamps, and they work amazing. I got these actually at Harbor Freight. They're not too expensive. I used them before, but I'm amazed every time I use them as how versatile that they can be on a big box like this.
I was trying to show you at the beginning of that clip. If you got these small boards, anything like that, that's a little small for a joiner, and you need to smooth up, get them flush. Put a flush trim bit in your router table and just run it through it, and you got exactly what the joiner would have done, as long as one of them was straight. Now, if it wasn't straight, you need to do that beforehand before you glue them up. But what I'm doing here, these are the feet for this chest, and these I'm just gonna have to cut down in sizes. This I done first, and I wasn't thinking when I glued it up. You're getting blurry. There you go. I wasn't thinking when I glued it up, and I went ahead and glued it really too short. But now I have a good space to put up against the miter saw, so I can cut and get my dimensions, cut flush on one side, get my dimension, cut the other side, and then for this way I'm gonna run through the table saw. Same thing on these, and then go back, and actually I may run these through the table saw first. But that's a pro tip, and also more importantly a safety tip. These are too short to run through the joiner. I wouldn't feel comfortable. Flush trim bit in your router table, you got both hands on it, you got a good base right here, and it's a whole lot safer than the joiner.
After I got through with the feet, I went and grabbed the handles, and I put the biggest cove bit I got, and I made lines on the actual piece itself. Therefore, this little cove will not show on the end, so it is like a hidden cove. Once all the panels were dry, I got the bottom out, and I actually put glue on this. I didn't show it, but I put glue all around the edges, and I took my combination square, and these pieces are 1/2 inch thick. I was wanting them to be thicker than that, but with the quality this lumber was, that's what I could get out of it. So I set my combination square at 1/4 of an inch, and I made a line. Therefore, I knew that when I drilled this hole and I put this screw in, it was in the center. So I went around all the way around and just put screws in to help secure this bottom to this chest. Using cedar fence pickets, I planed them down to 1/4 inch and used them to trim out this chest. I really wanted cedar to be the material used for the whole thing, but we had trouble finding it, and this is all I could really find. So I used the sassafras that my buddy had, my customer had, and I trimmed it out in cedar. Now, it looked kind of odd to me at first, but I really think that it kind of set it off once the complete project is finished, which you'll see, and all the cedar that I've incorporated into it. I cut them trim pieces long that way it didn't really matter the position of it when I first put it on there. And I just took that my flush trim bit and my router, and I just trimmed them all up and got everything to where it was perfectly aligned. That way, it's a whole lot easier. putting the handles on, I measured pretty much center. I want them up higher on from top to bottom, but they're center from side to side. And I drilled holes in the chest, and my screws started. So it was pretty much the easiest way I could figure out to do it. I'll say that. So I just run a couple screws in with coarse glue, and that way the handles are good and secured. I really wanted the top to be thicker than just a half inch, so I lined it with full size fence pickets, so full width fence pickets, and I also trimmed them down, of course, to 1/4 thick, and I just lined them up. I didn't really use no joinery, but I glued and pin nailed them all the way down. I cut the lid long, and that way when it was all said and done, I could just trim it up, square it up, and get to the size that I really wanted.
Now, is this chest perfect? Absolutely not. You've seen it in the beginning of this video. This lumber was not great. My customer provided it. His dad had it, which he thought it was in better shape than what it was, but I done the best I could with it. I went through with cedar fence pickets. We had hard trouble finding cedar. It's kind of hard in this part of the country. Not a lot of mills really cut it, but I used cedar fence pickets to just trim it out. The inside of the lid, I put cedar fence pickets, and I put cedar pickets just in the bottom, just laid them in there. And yeah, I mean, everything is sassafras except for the trim and what I showed you. The lid had some defects in it, like there's a hole right there I stick my finger in. So that's another reason why I put the cedar on the bottom of the lid. The lid bowed on me before I put the fence pickets on there, and of course fence pickets are not going to fix that problem. They're just going to be there. So there's a hole right there. I don't know if you can see it, but the trim hit it. But yeah, I'm gonna finish it with boiled linseed oil, and hopefully that gives it a new look. This is the first time I've ever worked with sassafras, and I've got to say, I don't want to do it again. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, and it was just this bundle. So these boards were already planed to 3/4 before they were left outside, and I had to go through and I had to plane them down to like 1/2 inch, which is not what I wanted to do at all. You know, yeah, I wanted 3/4 and then trim it out, you know, with 1/4 inch fence pickets, and yeah, it didn't work out that way. I made handles. You can see it right there on the edge of the video. I made handles out of the sassafras. I thought about putting cedar on them. I ended up didn't do that. It is, I mean, it's fairly stout. It's fairly heavy for being, half-inch sassafras, but it is what it is situation. My buddy, he asked for this, told me he'll provide the lumber, told me do what you can with it, and that's what I did with it. So yeah, I wish I could done better with it, but it's one of them things. If you like this video and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe. Questions, comments, put them down in the comment section. I read them all. Yeah. Maybe next time we'll do better on a project like this. Who knows? Y'all have a good one. God bless.